Satsang. Quite a few people have asked, they said, Burt, you talk about the now as being very blissful, very beautiful, and it's where we have to live from. He said, but as far as I'm concerned, the now is my pain. The now is nothing but depression and anger. So anyway, and I had other similar saying the same thing. I don't understand how now is so beautiful when I can never experience that beauty. So can you explain what that means? Okay. Well, first of all, you are a human being. The human is conditioned. The being is the now itself. The human is made up of past, present, and future. Okay? So in other words, it can live in present time, and as it lives in present time, it is thinking about what happened or what's going to happen. And it calls it now, but it isn't now. Because now is timeless. See, very few people are aware of that. When they think of now, they think of this particular moment. But if in this moment you're thinking about something else, or you're not being here, in other words, you're occupied your mind, you're not being now. You're being in time. Okay? Time means anything that has happened or is going to happen. But the now is. Okay, we're going to explain that a little bit better as we go along. Okay. So when we talk about holographic essence, the now is holographic, it simply means that it is beyond time and space. If, for example, you're sending an email over to Australia, okay, and I said this before, many people think that it's going to travel all the way to Australia. But the thing is that the moment you press send, it's already there, wherever you send it. It's a signal. Just like when you call somebody on the cell phone, the moment you dial that particular number, it sends a signal, that person gets it right away. There is no time and space. There is only now. You see? Now some people might say, okay, Burt, I sent it to Australia, but it took an hour to get there. Well, that's because the server is slow. The technology is not up to date. That's all. But everything is now. If you were to travel at the speed of light, and you took 20,000 years, still traveling at the speed of light, you'd still be here now. And wherever you are, there is your world that you created with your mind. Another interesting factor is this, and that's holographic, incidentally. So the vast space, like people went up to the moon and they've discovered a whole new world, a whole new energy. But at the same time, if you have a drop of water, just a little drop of water, and you magnify it 1,000,000 times, there's another world. There are creatures living there, they are breathing, they are having children, they are having families, they are living. Okay? But to us, whoop, drop of water is gone. It's finished. But in holography, there is no time. So everything is relative, you see? Now, this is something that the mind cannot understand. So when we talk about now, the now happens when there is an absence of self. An absence of self happens when you're suddenly walking down the beach and it's beautiful and it's sunny. I always think of the beach because I love it so much. And there are no thoughts, no worries, you're not thinking of time, you don't have appointments, you're totally open. And then you feel that peace, that bliss. Okay? At that moment you are now. There is an absence of self. You're not preoccupied with yourself. You're not caught in your own thinking. Also, the now is a center. When I say center, it doesn't mean there's an actual middle point. It's a center of everything. There is nothing outside of now. You see, that's another thing. See, even what is happening around now, which is time-bound, you might be thinking about the past, you're anxious about the future. Still, the now is there, but you're not noticing it. You notice it when you witness, because the now is a witness, totally dispassionate. In other words, it is not caught in bad feeling, negative feeling, past feeling, future feeling, nothing. It is totally now. Let me give you an example. Picture the following. Picture a cyclone. It devastates the whole countryside. It's devastating, right? It's nothing. It's tearing houses, it's tearing streets, everything is being blown up. Did you know that within the cyclone there is a silence, which is the now itself? We've heard of this, right? Okay. Let's do something that we know of too. Take a storm on the ocean. And this storm is lashing out furiously so that even a ship won't be able to stay on the surface. It will drown. It will toss it. It will destroy it. Did you know that in that turmoil, in that fury of that storm, lies a quiet center called the depth of the ocean? It's quiet. It is silent. It is always there. When we talk about a center, everything has the energy by which it makes it move and appear real. See, when we look around, we see a world, and we're convinced that this world is really there. But if you were to enter another person's mind, you will find that they are seeing a totally different world than you are. Total different feelings, total different emotions. But the world that we see is a world of our mind. Is it really there? What's making it seem to be there? It is that silent center that is more real than anything else. Let me give you an example. This is a personal example of what happened to me. I've suffered from macular degeneration. And my left eye has become so bad that I only see about maybe 20%. My right eye was filled with cataracts. But I was still reading. I was still able to read, but it was very foggy. So it was suggested I go to surgery. So on February 18th of this year, I went for surgery, and they cleaned up my eye and they gave me a lens. But what the lens did, it made it impossible for me to read. I couldn't read anymore. It was absolutely nothing. So I didn't know what to do with that. And I'm an avid reader. I love reading. So therefore I was with Al and Shirley. We went for a little drive. They came all the way from Richmond and we went for it together. And I told them about my situation. And they said, well, maybe you need reading glasses. So a few days later, Shirley is at the door, knocking at my door, and she's got a bag full of reading glasses, all type of different levels of magnification. Isn't it wonderful? But as I used these glasses, I would go through the page like this, you see, to see, because they're kind of small, and it was uncomfortable, in other words. So it became a little issue with me. And because it became an issue, I wasn't too happy about it, because I know I had to forgive it. You see, I had to forgive it because I'm thinking I'm just a body. So I prayed to the Holy Spirit, and I said, and you cannot say to the Holy Spirit, heal my body, because he doesn't see a body. The Holy Spirit, in essence, is just mind. It is not a body. It is not physical. So I said, just give me the peace to bear with this, so that I continue in my joy. Everyday joy. And 2 days later I had a dream. And in this dream I was giving a satsang like I'm doing now, and I was reading from A Course in Miracles, and the print was so clear. This is a dream. I'm dreaming this. And the print was so clear, and the people were so clear, and I heard them and I saw them, and the colors were bright and everything else. This happened three weeks ago. When I got up in the morning, I realized it was just a dream. But I was seeing it clearer than I do with my physical eyes open. My eyes were closed. And then I realized, not that I didn't know it before, I knew it before, but it was a realization. It was an impact. I don't see with my eyes, I see with my mind. After a while, I reached out for a book. I don't even know what I'm doing. And it was the Course in Miracles, the manual, the teacher's manual. And I started reading it. I still don't know that I'm reading it. 3 pages later, I realized I am reading. I'm reading clearer than ever before. And I started to cry. Because I was so moved by this. See, this is what I'd like to stress about in the now. If you really pray to the Holy Spirit and make it your friend, it can be the most marvelous thing. Because the Holy Spirit is the medium between Christ and the human. Anyway, we can explain it later. So therefore, I realized that I see with my mind. And this has been 3 weeks ago. And now I'm reading anything. See, another thing that happened when I couldn't see why it became an issue, because I was getting so many emails from around the world, people asking me questions, as much as 80, sometimes even 100. But I couldn't read most of them because the print was so small. It was not HTML, it was just text. You know, the font was only about maybe 8, 10 at the most, the size of it. So what I did was I hit reply, it goes on to reply, and then it goes into HTML, and then I changed the font, and I put bold on it so that I can read it. So it gave me a lot of work. I was spending most of my free time just answering emails. I said, you know. So that's why it became sort of an issue. And now you can put it as small as you can, I can read it. It's a miracle? Of course it is. It's beautiful. The power that's in us is absolutely amazing. So how does that relate to now? It is bringing everything to now. The now is miraculous. The possibilities are infinite. And another beautiful thing about it is that when you forget the body completely, you become totally now. The moment there is pain, the moment you get caught in it, the moment there is discomfort, you see, this is why I wanted a healing of my sight, not because I am going blind. It wasn't that fear. I don't really have that much of a fear, but it was more or less because it was making me body conscious. You see, I would go shopping and I have to take these magnifying things and look at the labels to get the proper thing, you see? So anyway, and that's healed, and I'm very, very grateful. So let's go back to now. Now is a silence. If you happen to be suffering from emotional pain, tremendous pain, horrific pain, what is happening really? You have blocked that silence. You have blocked that witness. You have blocked that center of you, which is always in bliss, which is always now, which is always beautiful. And incidentally, that's who I call Holy Spirit, okay? That's the silence, this is the now itself. So you identify so much with it that even the Course says it, the Course says this, that you're close to insanity. If you get so depressed, if you get so caught that you feel totally helpless and hopeless at the moment, and you don't know where to turn to, you don't realize your own power, you get so caught in it that actually you could have a nervous breakdown. Okay? So, but some people say, but if in the now, all of a sudden I lose the now and I get depressed because of something that has happened, maybe I heard somebody say something that hurt my feelings, maybe I remembered something that really hurt me, how can I deal with it? And then I say, be aware of it. You see? Today I'm going to take a little further than that, and I call it forgiveness. And I want to, the reason I also want to call it that, because I know what it has done for me, and what it's still doing for me. So, you become aware of what is. The moment you become aware, there's another part of you that is activated that is called self-recognition. 2 weeks ago we talked about that. And if you want to refresh your memory about what we talked about the now being self-recognizing and self-organizing, please listen to it. It's on video number 2 and 3. Okay. And those of you who are listening there will do the same thing. So what happens most of the time when you get too caught emotionally is that you block the being that you are. You're a human being. You see? But in truth, you are a being playing the human role. So every time that you identify with the human and you forget the being, okay, you go out of alignment. The moment you go out of alignment, everything that you've made real in your life surfaces. That offense, that insult, that person not liking me, that happened, it keeps right. And especially it happens early in the morning when you first get up, because you go in a sort of twilight zone in the morning and all that starts surfacing. So anything that you have not resolved, anything that you have not forgiven, surfaces. So, but as you keep bringing the awareness into it, you also have to remember that what you're aware of is not real. Only the awareness is real. Remember, when we talk about reality, we're talking about that which never changes. That which has no beginning or end. In other words, that which is changeless and timeless. You see, what is that? Your very being. Your very being is now itself. There are people who live almost a whole lifetime without experiencing now. This moment is now. But right now, you're paying attention, right? You are now. Because if you pay attention, fully attention, know exactly what I'm saying, at that moment you're paying attention, you forget yourself. You become attention. That's being. See how simple it is? So whenever you pay full attention, when you are totally attentive, that's love. You see? What happens if you have a daughter that you love, a cat, a dog, a neighbor that you love, a friend that you love when you're with them? You pay attention to them, right? You listen to them. At that moment of your full attention, you are loving them. So this now itself is love. See? The moment you lose contact with now, in other words, you become a thinker. Okay, now we have to understand here. There's nothing wrong with thinking. The mind is thought. Okay, and I repeat what I said 2 weeks ago. The world that you experience is your mind. Because there's nothing outside of you, there's only mind. And the mind is not inside you. You are inside it. In other words, your body is inside your mind. Because everything that you're experiencing now is your mind. Okay? And this is also scientifically proven. More and more now physicists are saying that the world we experience, which is quantum physics, right? That's what it is, yeah. It's called quantum physics, right? And if you study it, you'll find it completely goes with what the Course in Miracles teaches. I mention the Course in Miracles very often because to me it is the greatest teaching known. And the more I got involved in it, the more things happen, more miracles happen. You see? So the key question now is that how can we live more in the now? Now this is what I want to emphasize. It is called forgiveness. Now when we think about forgiveness, we think of it in a mundane way. Forgive means I forgive you, or I forgive myself. No, forgiveness does not mean there. Forgiveness, forward, giveness, giving forward, giving into space, giving into the now. Okay? An example of this, because forgiveness means there's nothing to forgive. Okay? All it is simply the change that is going by. But within the change, there is the changeless. You know, you're changing all the time, right? You've been a baby, then you became a child, then you became a teenager, then you become an adult, and all 4 different bodies, different personalities, different mental state, everything. But the one thing that never changed is you. That was observing these changes. So this means that you, observing these changes, you are changeless. Because if you are changing, how can you observe change? Are you with me? You cannot see change if you are also changing. Okay? Let me give you another example that I gave before. You are in this car, and there is this other car, and you're moving, changing, in other words, you're moving, riding together at the same time. When you look at the person on your right, it's as if you're not moving at all, right? Is that true? Because you're moving.
If you're going the same speed.
Going at the same speed. So now, right now, you decide to stop. What happens? You see the car going by, right? You saw the change. You saw the change because you became still. Only in stillness can you see change. All right? So therefore, the awareness that you are is a stillness. It is the now itself. It is the changeless, beginningless, endless essence. And when you bring that about, you don't bring it about, these are just words. When you become aware of what is happening and you see it as change, you are forgiving it. Because the change are like clouds in the sky. You know, the clouds can get so thick that you can say, even at noon, oh, it's dark like the night, because it's covering the sun. But isn't the sun still there? Of course it's there. We're not seeing it, that's all. We're totally identified with the cloud. Well, that's what happens with thoughts. The awareness, the essence of you, the Christ in you, which is the now itself, which is you, really, the essence of you, is still there. But it's so clouded over by the thinker of these thoughts that all that there is ego. You see? And because there is only ego, you are blind to the truth of you. So what do you do when you're blind to the truth of you? What do you do when you're not aware of now? You start seeking the now without realizing it. You see? So you put an ad in the paper, I'm looking for a man or a woman to spend my life with. You're looking for a relationship, you're looking for sex, you're looking for something that thrills you, you're looking for some meaning in life. You see? Why? Because when you're not living now, you feel empty. You feel like something is missing. Something is not quite okay. You see? So therefore you go seeking, but you don't know you're seeking the now. You don't know that you're seeking that presence, because now is called a presence. You see, now is called I call it Holy Spirit. It doesn't matter what you call it. The now is that changeless essence of you. It never changes. It's always there. And when you seeing change, you see everything, you look in the mirror, you're not really seeing you. But if you look straight into your eyes and you ask, who am I? And keep looking straight into your eyes. Who am I? There's a feeling that comes. Now, most people cannot take it for 10 minutes or so. They get a little scared, or they start blinking, or they look away. Really, but if you really want to know the truth, and you become still with yourself, you begin to see your essence. It is scary in the beginning, yeah, because we live so much from thought, and there's nothing wrong with thought, okay? But if you make it real, then you go out of alignment with now. And the moment you go out of alignment with now you need something to forgive. Because if you don't forgive it for going out of alignment, it keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. You know, I get emails every day, people telling me, why does this keep happening? But I am living now, I am praying, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. So I have to explain what now means, and what the present time means, and what the essence means, and everything else. So I've written a few booklets to send them out to explain. But still, It's very hard to get to see who you are when you've identified so much with the passing show.
What, sorry?
With the passing show. The passing show
Right,
is
right,
a show.
you.
I mean, you know, we are a passing show. We're alive now when we're having satsang, but another 40 years no one will be here, right? We'll still be here. We'll still be here, but not in the body, not in the same. Yeah, we'll always be here. Yeah, how boring. That's what the mind says, you see. But there can be no boredom, there can be no feeling of anything negative when there is that silence, that depth, that beauty. Let me give you another example so that we begin to understand what we mean by the changeless within the change. I'd like you now to picture a bicycle and look at the wheel, okay? Now can you see the wheel very clearly? Okay. Now, when the wheel is turning and going very fast, it wears out the tire, right? And the spokes converge, they go into the center, and that center is a hold that supports the wheel. That center is changeless. Nothing happens to that center. That center doesn't move. You can go 50 miles an hour cycling at great speed. That center doesn't move. It's always there, okay? So that center is called the now. Are you understanding? The movement of the wheel is the present time. It's full of activity. The more involved you get in it, the more caught. Because getting involved in something that is happening, it can be very creative and very beautiful. Okay, and it can bring you to the now. But when you get caught in that time of motion, then you lose perspective. Why? Because you lose contact with that inner silence, with that now. Okay, now there is only really one way. Now there is acceptance, there is awareness, to be aware of it, the witnessing, all these things. But, and I like what the Course in Miracles says too, because it says that forgiveness is the fastest way when you see that there's nothing to forgive. What does it mean, there's nothing to forgive?
There's nothing going on.
There's nothing going on, except a lot of activity. But everything is going on in a circle. You get up in the morning, you get so busy, you brush your teeth, you have your breakfast, you rush to work, if you go 9 to 5, then you come back, and then you do the same thing, maybe watch television, maybe make love, and then you go to bed, and you get up in the morning, start the same thing over and over again. You see, that's what we call, you know, it's going around in a circle, like the clock. You know, the clock is on 12 o'clock, it moves, gets back to 12, which is midnight, and then noon again. You see, but all it is just moving around and around and around.
A squirrel, it's like a squirrel on one of those wheels.
Yeah, right, exactly. Or another example is the Earth going around the Sun. Now the Earth goes 365 turns, you know, all around the Sun, and it goes and it gets back to exactly where it is. The perfection of it is just a mess. Mm-hmm. And yet it creates the seasons, it creates the calendar, days, weeks, months, years, as if time is going by. The body ages because the body, there's biological time. And biological time is not a necessarily chronological time. A person could be 70 years of age and be as young as a 45 or a 50 years of age. It has nothing to do with biological time. So there's biological time, which is the change of the body, chronological time, which has to do with keeping track of time going by, and there's psychological time. That's called suffering time. Psychological time means, oh my gosh, what happened last week? You know, it happened, it's over. Yeah? But you're still thinking about it, you see, and you're suffering. See, I do hypnotherapy, and when I take people back to some experience that they've had, at that moment, they are reliving it, and it's actually happening now in the body. The body reflects it as if it is now, because the body has no mind. It is directed by mind itself. Do you understand? It itself is a reflection of mind. So if the mind is reliving something in the past, the body does not know the difference. So it experiences as if it is actually happening. This is why people say to me, Burt, you talk about the now as beautiful, to me it's shitty. You see? Because they think that what they're feeling is happening now. It is not happening now. It is some dream image that they've had in their mind, and they keep repeating it over and over again because they don't want to forgive it. Oh, I hate that person so much. I'll never forgive them for what they did to me. They betrayed me. They did this and did that. Okay, what happens? Who's suffering? You are suffering because when you can't forgive, you have actually murdered yourself. Really, it's a form of killing yourself.
What's the difference between forgiveness and acceptance?
Yes, acceptance, surrender, allowing, all these things mean the same thing. Forgiveness is seeing that nothing took place. Acceptance, I can accept my feeling bad right now, so I begin to feel better. But I don't heal. I feel better because I've coped with it. But I don't actually heal it. Forgiveness heals it. Because forgiveness, as the Course says it, it's called an atonement. Atonement means that there's nothing that has happened. Nothing has taken place. It was all in the mind. You see?
It's all an illusion?
It's all an illusion.
Even if somebody...
Misperception. Everything that you think is happening is only what you think is happening.
So the so-called sin is a misperception.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Many religions teach you that you've been born in sin. What a horrible thing to teach your children. You see, and you teach them guilt. Did you know that guilt is the worst? Because what keeps us entrenched in pain? That repeats over and over again. Guilt. Because guilt keeps repeating itself. And because it repeats itself, it compounds. Just like money in the bank, it keeps gaining interest.